The time to build is upon us.
With great power comes great responsibility.
You know the greatest danger facing us is ourselves, an irrational fear of the unknown.
Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
This is the Superhuman Academy podcast.
All right, so Michelle, I think last time we talked, I think we agreed, if I remember correctly, that for this session, I was going to hazard an attempt at guiding you into a trance state and back out, and then we would flip it. Excuse me, I have a bit of a cold, so my voice might sound kind of gross for this one, but me being a untrained dabbler in things of consciousness, but definitely not a hypnotherapist or hypnotist of any kind, and you being someone who has done this for how long?
About 4 years.
4 years? Okay, great. So definitely an experience gap there. Awesome. Are you still up for that? Does that sound fun?
I'm up for it. Let's see what happens.
Okay, and part of my intention here is I would love to learn some of these skills and build on them. So I will put on my beginner's hat and hazard my best, and then we can flip, and then you can also share, if you're willing to, what I'm doing that's working, what I'm doing that's not working, and how I might improve my skills in this area for fun.
Sure. Let's do it.
Great. Clear my throat again here. So first of all, do you feel safe? Do you feel comfortable right now?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Well, in that case, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and close your eyes and start to become more aware of your breathing, how it feels, the air entering in through your nose, and how it feels exiting gently out of your mouth. And as you breathe, allow each breath to go just a little bit deeper than the one before. You might imagine the air moving of its own accord, dropping into your lungs. And as you breathe, your body relaxes from the top of your head down to the soles of your feet. With each inhale, you feel yourself growing lighter, almost as if there is a balloon tied to the top of your head, lifting you up. And with each exhale, a release of tension and anything that might anchor you to the ground below. Allow your head to tilt back as if you wanted to look at a cloud in the sky drifting by. And as you do, notice how you feel lighter, more relaxed, untethered. And as you listen to the sound of my voice, you continue to relax, deepening into a calm, sleep-like state. From this state of relaxation and lightness, you might see a little light. And that light is coming down to meet you as you rise up. And as you breathe in deeply, you can feel that light entering your system, spreading warmth and relaxation through your body. And as you breathe out, you can feel yourself drifting back gently down to the earth. You can feel the weight of your body slowly returning as you graciously let go of that balloon that was carrying you skyward. And as you gently touch back down to the earth and your head drifts back forward, you can feel grounded and present. You feel sensation returning, the sensation of weight, sensation of presence returning. And as you breathe in deeply through your nose, you feel refreshed, awake, and ready to switch roles. There's my attempt off the top of my head.
Nice job, Colin.
How
I
was
think
that?
for a newbie, you did great.
Hey, thank you.
There were a lot of excellent elements in your trance inducement.
Very cool. Yeah, where did that take you?
It took me into kind of a floaty place, somewhere, I don't know, a few feet up,
Hey,
a little
great.
higher than I was, and into a place of quiet and presence, and it was very nice.
Great. All right. Well, I'll take that.
It was
That
very
was
nice. You included some very nice metaphors. You have a beautiful voice, which is
even with the
actually a
cold. Thank you.
which is a key ingredient for this work. And I think you have a nice natural pacing,
Mm.
which I'm going to guess you've listened to a few of these. Um, but you've picked up a lot of good habits along the way. We could talk more about the benefits of actually going to school for this because there are benefits of going to school for
I'm
it.
sure.
But you've got all the makings of an excellent uh, guided meditation leader or potentially hypnotherapist.
Cool. Well, I appreciate that. I'm excited to see what it's like to turn the tables here.
Okay, so I will ask you a question because one of the distinguishers between meditation and hypnotherapy is that hypnotherapy is always done with a goal. And so I can't really put you in a state of hypnosis if we're not in agreement as to what is the goal that you would like or objective. What is and this doesn't need to be, help me get rid of my lifelong fear of cranberries, but it's almost Thanksgiving. But we need some kind of a goal for me to work with. So what goal can we work with today?
Hmm.
It can be simple.
Yeah. I will overthink it for a few seconds here. And then I'll come up with something. Um, hmm. I would like to I would like to feel stronger and bolder. Does that work as a goal?
It does. Let me clarify, stronger and bolder, like in your physical body or in your work ambitions or in your relationships, like stronger and bolder in what context?
Hmm.
I mean, it can be all, but
Yeah,
like I want
it's
to make
kind of
sure I'm not telling you to go to the gym when you wanted to
Yeah, no,
do
it's
more
more like
outreach or something.
it's there is that physical component. It's kinda like presence, like um, I wanna have more solidity solidity, is that right? Gravitas?
Okay.
Yeah, in that realm.
Okay. All right, let's do this.
Let's do it.
So, you're sitting down. I would encourage you first to have a little stretch. And you can kind of stretch however you want, but people are usually going to be sitting still for a couple minutes. And so I like people to kind of wake up their bodies a little bit and stretch before we start.
Alright, great.
Then go ahead and put your hands in your lap, and go ahead and close your eyes and allow yourself to just go deeply within. You are gently taking yourself to a place you've been so many times before. In this other place, it is outside of time and space. It is safe and completely protected. And it is special and unique to you. Should you encounter any distractions as you go into this place, you find it easy to imagine putting the distraction on a cloud, on a gray and white cloud in an expansive blue sky, and sending away the distraction on top of the cloud towards the horizon until it crosses over. When it does so, you know it is the perfect time to come back to listening to the sound of my voice. You are gently bringing your subconscious mind forward while sending your conscious mind back. And it is completely likely that your conscious mind will remain aware of what I'm saying and we're doing and thinking about. But it is also possible that your conscious mind may just take this time for a little timeout as your subconscious mind takes center stage. You feel your body beginning to relax, starting at the top of your head, letting go of any tension or tightness in your head and face and neck, moving down into your shoulders, going through your arms, reaching all the way to the tips of your fingers, moving from your neck and shoulders into your chest, making more space in your chest for deeper breathing, and noticing that as you make more space, you can breathe more deeply. Your lungs inflate and breathe out more easily and gently. This relaxation, this release of tension moves into your belly, pelvic area, buttocks and thighs, down your legs, past your calves to your ankles, feet, and toes, and from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. You feel a complete, easy sense of relaxation. Notice now the energy in your feet and how your feet are touching the earth. How, as your feet touch the energy of our beautiful planet, you are at one with the earth, becoming a part of the all one, becoming a part of nature, the environment, and continuing to move deeper and deeper into that easy, peaceful, and relaxed state that you know so well. As you feel your feet touching the earth, you can imagine and play with your imagination, imagining that you were a plant and your feet sprouted roots and they could grow into the earth, and that those roots could exchange nutrients and minerals and water and energy with the planet itself. And know that some of those roots were very important, and some of those roots more peripheral and not so necessary. This playing with your imagination is fun for you. It allows you to recognize all of the good things, the positive things in your life you wish to strengthen and build, grow and improve, while also making space for things that you need to let go of, things that are no longer serving, things that were helpful for a time, but not now. It's like you could imagine those roots connecting you to the earth, where some of the roots are big and strong and supportive, and others that lose their connection, that are no longer necessary, that just fall away because they are unneeded. As you see yourself in this way, you can recognize how you connect to our planet, to the people, to all of the activities, journeys, thoughts, sound, smells, all of the life experiences. And in making that connection, you are able to better establish which of these roots and connections are helpful for you in your process to be stronger and bolder. You are able to notice which of the roots and connections strengthen that energy and which of the roots or connections are not helpful anymore. And as you feel yourself going into this space, your desire and clarity around becoming stronger and bolder, feeling more solid, feeling more and more connection and depth increases. Recollect something now from your past, perhaps the last year or two. This is a time, a moment, or an experience when you elevated your sense of being stronger and bolder. Perhaps you went out on a limb and asked someone for a favor you didn't know if they would give you. Perhaps you took a challenge in your business and it worked out. Perhaps you approached a new person and made a friend, showing both humility and confidence simultaneously. Whatever it is, as you recall your experience, feel into the energy of that experience, its energetic signature. As you move into that energetic signature, notice any parts of your body that may be speaking to you now. Noticing any itches, thoughts, noticing if you're sweating or your heart rate changes. Observe how connecting to this feeling is connected to your sensations of your own body. You are now more clear about how this feeling that you desire to bring into your life manifests itself in your physical body. This is a cue that you are on the right track. As you move into this energy, anytime that you feel this feeling that you want to regain this sense of being stronger and bolder, more solid, you will know you are heading in the right direction as your body returns these feelings to you. You are a person who has accomplished much in your life, who has done many, many out of the ordinary and strong and bold things, or you wouldn't be where you are today. Your sense of confidence clarity, and commitment grows. You have an ability to move the needle on this meter to the exact number you want it to be. It is now time to complete this short session. When I count to 3, you'll be back in this time and space, recalling this feeling, being able to reimagine and bring it to yourself anytime. Coming back, 1, 2, 3. And now you're back. You may open your eyes.
Hmm.
How was that?
Having trouble getting my eyes totally open.
And yet, they're only closed because you chose to close them.
Yeah.
I told you to, and you did.
Yeah. My face was enjoying being that relaxed.
This is why I have people stretch.
Yeah. Makes sense. That was nice. I like that. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I thought I would play with a little bit of the opposite idea.
Yeah.
Your idea took me high and floaty,
Mhm.
and my idea was to take you down and ground. And I think this is a nice, by putting these 2 back to back, it's kind of a nice way of noticing that either one can be extremely helpful and relaxing.
Yeah.
There isn't a I in my work, I would say there's better and not as good, but there's rarely right and wrong. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. More or less effective.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm curious, how much of that was off the cuff,
All of it.
improv? Yeah,
I don't
okay.
have a script here. I, I trained, so
Mhm.
I know what to say. I have my background in that. My but I didn't decide I was doing this grounded thing until you did the air thing.
Mhm.
Um, and it's essential to, like I said, hypnosis always has a goal. So it was important for me to have something to know about you and what you wanted and what to connect. But I don't know you at all, Colin. I haven't we had a 10-minute conversation while I was driving in my car on a rainy day, and I
Mhm.
haven't looked you up, and I don't really know much about you at all.
Perfect.
But I can lean into sort of a common human energy. Um, Pretty much everybody's had an experience of something that made them feel good in the last year where they felt more confident and bold. So, I was pretty
Mhm.
sure you'd be able to think of something there. And I know a little bit about you. You have a podcast. Not everybody has a podcast, so clearly you've done a few things that are um reaching out kind of things, right? It's not like you've always walked down the center of the same sidewalk every day. You've probably walked down many sidewalks. Um I'm I'm blessed that I have found a great way to embrace the learnings of my study and school and experience and blend it with a very keen sense of intuition, human nature, and confidence in people, honestly, to come up with this stuff. When I first started my work, I wrote everything out. I planned for hours what I was gonna do with every client. I approached this very, very studiously. And then a few months into my practice, I realized that my best work was using all of that, using those metaphors, using those techniques, using that education, but enmeshing it with a connection to energy and source, my intuition, wherever
Mhm.
that comes from. And that's how my clients generally see me now, because that's
Yeah.
usually what I do. And it, like I said, I mean, like, I went to business school. I was a biology major. Like, this notion that, the best work my best work in this category, comes from, at the moment, inspiration was a little bit hard to sign on to,
Sure.
but you do what works. And in my case, it's about getting results for my clients. That's what it's about. It's not about writing it down or having an exact checklist. It's about results.
Mhm. I'm curious, in, like, hypnotherapy school or whatever it's called, um
That's exactly what it's called,
oh,
hypnotherapy
perfect,
school.
okay,
Yes.
great. Do you practice on each other as students? Is that a big part of it?
A lot. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
A lot of I mean, it's a combination of, lectures and reading and that kind of a thing, a combination of discussion, but there are hours and hours and hours devoted to, practicing getting other people into trance, learning how to when someone is in a state of trance, to treat them with the right tone and support and comfort and respect. Um, Learning different styles of and I was impressed by something that was in yours. You said something about you may feel da 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 da. Well, there's sort of two branches of hypnotherapy. One is very much a you may, this could, like this
Mhm.
imaginative kind of thing. And then there's another style, which is you're done smoking cigarettes. You will never do that again.
Yeah, yeah, you tell them what will be or what
Yes,
is, yeah.
yes. And so, as people go out and shop for a hypnotherapist, um, you might want to understand sort of what school of thinking or what style of practice that hypnotherapist is going to use, and also what works for the client. I have some clients who really um, love the gentleness, the soft, the may kind of thinking, and that works for them. And then I have other clients who maybe we've tried that and they're like, "Well, it kinda worked." And I'm like, "Okay, fine. We're going into the, like,
Mhm,
you will not eat sugar anymore." Like, that's not what you wanna do. Your body thinks it's gross and disgusting. And for some
mhm,
people, that's very effective. And for some people, it's a mix of the 2. A lot of people, it's a mix of the
yeah,
2.
yeah.
But, it's an interesting science that way.
So when you would go back and forth with other hypnotherapy students, um, was there some sort of formatted way in which you would give each other feedback?
Yeah, I can't remember. It was a few years ago now. I can't remember exactly what it was, but the hypnotherapy really relies on positive thinking because that's how the brain is wired. So when I say don't think of a pink elephant, everybody thinks of a pink elephant. And that's just the easiest way to explain it. And so feedback in to your hypnotherapy student peer
Mhm,
um generally is framed in a way as to how to do something positive. And that doesn't mean never criticizing someone, but saying, "Hey, I really liked how you brought me into trance, and I felt really deep into trance." Um, it's funny because the story is coming up from when I went to hypnotherapy school. We were early into classes, and my classmate um, told me to go to my favorite place, something like that. And for
mhm.
whatever reason, I was imagining my childhood bedroom. My childhood bedroom had navy blue, wallpaper with yellow tulips on it. So here I am sitting in this bedroom. And then she says, "And now you pick up a bicycle." I was like, "That doesn't work." And, and, so I did what often happens. I was here deep in trance. I was here in my bedroom with tulips and the wallpaper. And then suddenly she's like, ride a bicycle. So what happens? I like almost pop out of trance. I start to kind of
Mhm.
wake up and then I'm like, okay, I'm in school. I need to cut this lady a break. She hasn't done this enough times to say your outdoor place that your favorite place is an outdoor place.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna pick up my bicycle in my imagination. Um, so, one wonderful thing about hypnotherapy school is it gives you a place to practice and
Mhm.
to make more of those mistakes. Because you do. You do make those mistakes. And I made those mistakes just like she did. So I think that's one of the reasons why it is a good idea when you're looking for a hypnotherapist to find someone who had comprehensive training on this skill because they're going to do better with those kinds of challenges than someone who's super new at the game or not trained as deeply.
Mhm. What other feedback would you give me on what I did? I'm curious what worked, what didn't
I
work,
thought what you
what
did
might
was
change.
very good. Um, One of the things I would say is that your style was more of sort of a mindful or present or meditative style as opposed
Mhm.
to my style, which is more a hypnotherapy style because you didn't ask me for a goal. You just launched right in. I had a goal with you. We tried to focus more so on your goal. I think that that was pretty clear through most of what I was doing.
Mhm.
Um, you did a really good job. I don't know where you got your script. I don't know.
No
Did you
script,
just
that was off the cuff.
that was off the cuff. Okay,
That's off
very
the cuff.
good. So you've made many, many observations about how sc how speaking and scripting that the language you're using, works, and you did an excellent job, Colin. Kudos.
Thank you. One thing, I had my eyes closed when I was leading you as well because I was attempting to I was basically guiding myself and then just verbalizing what I was experiencing because I thought that would be more congruent and, um, it'd be easier for me to convey in my voice what I was experiencing that I wanted you to experience at the same time. But I don't know because I had my eyes closed. Um, did you have your eyes open when you were leading me? Were you watching me? Do you use that as, like, a way to kind of shape the
Yeah,
experience?
so I think I actually had my eyes closed most of the time I was guiding
Okay.
you. I have my eyes closed often when I am with clients. There are times and kinds of therapy that I will do where it's essential that I have my eyes open because I'm asking my client to give me responses or feedback. So I didn't do that in my session with you, but it is not unusual for me to, bring up this memory. Do you have this memory in your mind? If so, nod your head yes or shake your head no. And so then I've got to be looking at my person
Mhm. Mhm.
to know what that data is as it comes back, right?
Yeah.
Um, One can be in a trance state, eyes closed or eyes open. So don't believe the myth that just because someone has their eyes closed, they're in a state of trance, or just because somebody has their eyes open, they're not.
Yeah, I was kinda wondering, like, that was part of what I asked why I asked was I was curious if you gauge where somebody's at. You're, like, looking at them and getting a sense of, like, how deep or if you need to do more of
Yes.
the induction side
Yes.
of things or what
Yeah.
are the
And I
indicators you look
usually
for?
ask my clients to have their camera on so that I can see them,
Mhm.
particularly in one-to-one work where I really want to be able to have a sense of what's going on with them. Can I see if they're there are cues that we learn about in hypnotherapy school that help to indicate somebody's level of trance. So you can notice someone flushing, you can notice little tiny eye movements. I mean, bigger ones that are easier are, oh, we start talking about something you don't want to talk about. I don't know. People start squirming around,
Squirm.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, so it is very helpful to be able to see somebody on camera and incorporate that in the session. That being said, I mean, I've done a few things for a few people that have been on the phone or their camera was out that day or whatever. But of course, in those, we have to find workarounds, you know? When you have that memory in mind, say yes. Like, I have to hear you, right? Like, we have to be able to exchange information back and forth. There's a lot to be gained by purely listening and experiencing the audio side of it all, which is why I make recordings for people. It's why I have recordings available on an Etsy store. I now have a new app that makes custom hypnosis recordings for people. The audio only is fabulous and very, very supportive. What
Mhm.
it does not typically do is transform somebody or eliminate childhood trauma or um, go through a series of steps you might need to take in order to change a habit, right? Um, a few years ago, I helped a lady who came to me saying that her problem was that she was drinking too much wine with dinner. She
Mhm.
was diabetic. She wanted to lose weight. And okay, great. She's because I don't help people go bone dry. Like, if you're an alcoholic, I want you in a different kind of program. But if you're somebody who wants to cut back on your drinking, that I can help with. Well, how much wine are you drinking? Oh, she says, I drink the bottle. Well, that is kind of a lot for a small woman, right? Well, she says, important to me. I want to pair my wine with my meal. Oh, I said, like what? Well, I like a certain Cabernet when I have duck. And I'm like, you live alone. You eat alone most of the time. Like, where did the duck come from? Do you make duck? Oh, no, I picked up the duck from takeout, but I want to have the wine. Okay, so I got her from drinking a whole bottle of wine down to drinking a glass. Huge victory. Goal accomplished. How? Through progressively working through the ideas of what was related to the wine, what was going on with this, and habit changing, right? Habit
Mhm.
changing. And so for those kinds of things, having an interactive session is essential. But there's a lot to be done for people who want to relax and get into that state and I don't know, maybe give a speech next week because they've been afraid of speaking in public or get on an airplane when they're just nervous about going to see Aunt Betty and they haven't been on a plane in 2 years, you know? So
Mhm.
it's a pretty magical technique. It's not
Yeah.
magic though, it is science. Like, we put
Yeah,
people in
yeah.
an MRI machine, we see that their brain changes, like, it seems magic because we can't see what happens on the inside, but, it is science-based.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I'm kinda curious, in school, did they talk about, um, I don't know, the dark side at all?
Some, yeah. I remember we had one student ask a visiting teacher, "How do I clear demons?" And the visiting teacher was a medical doctor who did hypnosis, and he was like, "Yeah, I can't answer that question. I don't
Yeah,
clear
okay,
demons.
so
I
I'm
don't
a I
know how
was
that's
I was
done."
thinking more along the lines of using these skills for dark purposes. So, like, on the opposite side of that, is that something that was
So
addressed?
here's the thing, is that there's this wonderful fun myth that you can hypnotize someone and get them to do something they don't want to do. Right? Get them that the people who are on stage at a hypnosis show don't wanna be on stage clucking like chickens or whatever. No, 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 no.
Sure.
Those people chose to be there.
Yeah, yeah.
That they chose to be there. You cannot use hypnosis to persuade people to do things they don't want to do because your subconscious, which is the whole part of what you're working with in hypnotherapy, what is the job of your subconscious? It is to keep you alive. It is to do the things that make sense to you. And so you cannot get people to do things that they don't want to do.
To play
Uh,
devil's advocate, though, you can definitely massage people in certain directions over time.
you can take people a piece by piece by piece. So the easiest one for me to explain this with is weight loss. Somebody comes to me and says, "Michelle, I want to lose weight." Okay, great. How much weight do you want to lose? I want to lose 50 pounds. Okay, great. How much do you think you can lose? Well, not 50 pounds. Understood. How much can you lose? Oh, I can lose 10. Okay, great. So we lose 10, and then we lose 10, and then we lose 10 until we add up to where we wanna go.
Mhm,
And that's really the way that you have to approach problems in hypnosis and hypnotherapy, is helping people get to the edge of a goal that they're trying to achieve and seeing themselves as being able to get that far, and then once you get that far, going the next step. So, there's some wonderful fun stories about people who had a past life regression and had a aha moment and boom, problem solved. And that does happen, but that is it's exciting to talk about, but is very, very unusual. For the most part, people go where they wanna go.
mhm,
I mean, I've had people come to me and well, not often, but I got a phone call from someone calling from another state. "Oh, I've had a problem. Um, I this problem is so bad it's landed me in jail a few times, and now I wanna solve it, and could I work with you to solve it?" And I listened to the problem, and I was like, "I want nothing to do with this." And, so I told the person, you know, "I don't do this," and I don't know where he went. Um, but, people do come sometimes and, they need to meet with someone else or find someone else to help with their problems, or their problems just aren't something that jives with what work
mhm.
I find in my integrity. Does that
Well,
make sense?
I'm curious doing the work that you do on a regular basis, if you've noticed, the some of the fundamental techniques and principles being used in nefarious ways in society.
Tell me what you mean.
So, here's an example. Let's say there's pyramid scheme, multi-level marketing, that sort of thing, or a cult, which those 2 are sometimes similar to each other, sometimes they're not. But using techniques to slowly move somebody in a direction, and eventually they end up standing somewhere or being very far from where they originated or where they intended to be as a result of this kind of progressive, like, boiling the frog, so to speak. Those would be situations in which I could see this type of stuff coming into play. I'm just curious, since you are a lot more versed in this than I am, certainly, like, if you've noticed that, if you pay attention to that, if you're interested in like, if that
Oh, yeah,
piques
no,
your
I
interest
see
at
it, I
all.
see it, and now I have a better sense of what you were
Yeah,
talking about
got it.
before. Um, put in a certain way, the way hypnosis works, which is really just the way the brain works, there is a path to stringing people along until they have gotten to a place of thinking that maybe is irrational or not evidence-based or not even really in their own self-interest. Um, and, I can point to politicians, thought leaders, that kind of a
Mhm,
thing, who maybe are not trained hypnotists, but like you, doesn't mean they're not pretty good at it, and have a way of pulling people along until they're, I don't know, kind of what you would call sort of on the edge of things, right? Um, I watched a funny video made by some New York Times reporter couple of years ago, interviewing his mom, who his mom had these lived in the Santa Cruz Mountains of California. She's kind of this hippie crystal chick, but she had some beliefs about things that were gonna come true that were big and outlandish from my
mhm,
perspective. But she was dead set in the belief that these things were gonna come true and lost a big bet to her son as part of the video. Um, yeah, was handing over $100 bills kinda thing because she'd lost this bet. And she got swept up into this way of thinking. And I do think that, it is I mean, just being clear, I think it's part of what has led to a lot of the, divergence in thinking and perspective that is present in the United States right now.
mhm. Yeah, part of what I'm really interested in, I have my own little program that I run called Everyday Defense Against the Dark Arts, and it's,
Oh,
kind of looking at
interesting. Okay.
how to be more, um, internally aware of what's going on internally, and when it's like, "Oh, interesting. Is that coming from me or is that coming from somewhere else?" And taking more agency over one's own state of being and way of thinking and things like that. And so just, since we were on, I was like, "Man, I really definitely wanna ask about that, like the modes of manipulation or ways that you see it, because the more I've learned, the more I see."
The thing is, I think that a lot of people fall into those, I just call them rabbit holes, without
Mhm.
realizing they've fallen into a rabbit hole, you
Yeah.
know? Um, uh, it's the holidays coming up, and I have a relative who lives in another state who has a set of beliefs that don't match mine, and it's largely because where does she live? What are the conversations going on around her? What is her viewpoint on life? Very different from mine. And am I going to be able to persuade her over to my way of thinking, or that some of these things that she thinks are true are certainly not true from my perspective? Maybe. I mean, she's a relative. We've known each other our whole lives, but maybe not. And I think it's part of the challenge that our country is in as we try and figure out how do we solve big problems. I don't I want to solve big problems. I know a lot of people
Mhm.
do, but that doesn't mean it's going to be easy.
Do you have personal processes, protocols, and we don't have to go down this rabbit hole if you don't want to. This is kind of a tangent of my own interest, but, do you have personal protocols or processes or ways that you defend your own psyche or, um
So, like earlier this year, I
Mhm.
decided I was going on a news diet.
Mhm.
And what that meant for me was limiting the amount of time that I was going to spend on following the news, because a lot of the news has nothing really to do with me as a little human on the earth. And if I spend my whole day worrying about this headline or that headline, does it do me any good, or does it just increase my stress and anxiety? It really just increases my stress and anxiety. So I would say that on the other hand, I like knowing the news. I don't like being in a conversation on not knowing the latest on X, Y, and Z. So, I've one of the ways that I guess I protect myself is to make sure I have a few different sources of news and that I spend some amount of time getting information from them, but not too much time. And
Mhm.
another way that I guess it's not really it might not come out sounding like protection, but I think of it as protection. I try to read I read a fair amount, not a ton, but I read a fair amount. And I do try and push myself to read one book a year by someone who I don't agree with. And I think of this as being sort of protective because you're never going to be around people that agree with you about everything. It's important to be able to listen to to different sides of things. And that's why I try to read one book a year.
Mhm. Do you notice, is this a regular occurrence that you notice that others or organizations may be attempting to manipulate you using some of the sorts of principles and techniques that you learned
Oh,
in
of
your
course, because
profession?
I also work in marketing.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was.
And marketing is in large part about showing you one side of the story, right? These are all the good reasons why you should call my business, try my product, that kind of a thing.
Well, that
It's
would be more. I mean, if someone comes right out and says, "These are the reasons you should try something," I would consider that more of the direct route versus what I would consider hypnosis to be more of taking peripheral routes.
hypnosis usually works on connecting with the subconscious mind.
Mhm.
Much of the work that I do with my clients is when they are in a deep state of trance.
Mhm.
Every now and again, I will have a client who that's not a good way of working. For example, I have a new client. She's a teenager. She's kind of autistic with ADHD and that kind of a thing. We have to find other ways of getting into what is in her head. Role playing, games, associations, other ways. And this is why you go to hypnotherapy school, because it does not prepare you to you need help. You need more skills to be able to do this kinds of thing. I can't put her in a trance during a session. She won't go because that doesn't feel right to her. That doesn't feel normal. She gets antsy. And so we have to go into a trance state by talking about dreams, by role, like I said, role playing, other ways of kind of getting at what's in her subconscious and how can we work on the things that she's trying to work on. I'm
Mhm.
not sure I answered your question.
Yeah, well, I was curious. You started to go down the advertising route, and I was
Oh,
curious
yeah,
if
yeah,
you
advertising. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think in terms of advertising, we live in a country that has, frankly, too much advertising with advertising everywhere, and it's gotten to the point of, like, I'm not sure people even see a lot of it because, I go to open some new website on my phone, and there's 2 videos playing, and there's this playing and something flashing at me, and I can't even read the article that I was clicking on to
Mhm.
get to. Do I know what any of these things are? Am I gonna buy those products? No, probably not, because I don't even know what they were. Um,
I guess
Marketing has just changed over time. Yeah,
that would
marketing.
be kind of the I guess, kind of the point of, like, in I guess, a more traditional way of persuasion would just be like, "Hey, here's the reasons to buy my product," or whatever. You're very much talking to somebody's, conscious mind. You're talking um to that gatekeeper or whatever. But the idea of just flashing stuff in people's faces all day is definitely not really addressing that part. 'Cause that part is like, I don't wanna look at that. But it is still getting in through the eyes, still getting in through the ears. And, yeah, that's more of what I was curious about. If you have 6 different videos playing on the screen at the same time, consciously, you're not gonna be able to track with that, but it can probably still have some
Well, it
influence in the
stimulates the
background.
mind,
Yeah.
not necessarily in a positive way, you know? Um I mean, trying to find the little X's to try and close some of those little videos, you know? I mean, we've all done it,
Yeah.
right? Um, we'll see what happens over time. I worked in marketing for over 20 years. A lot has changed in marketing since the late 90s to today. A lot will continue to change. Um, it kinda depends. I mean, it's how do I say it? The word marketing is kind of like meditation. They're giant concepts. Um Marketing, you could mean advertising, you could mean a brochure, you could mean, telesales, like, it could mean all kinds of different things. So, it's hard to characterize a specific situation.
Sure. Well, with our last few minutes here, maybe take this in a different direction. I don't talk to hypnotherapists very often, so curious. What's the most interesting hypnosis experience you've either had personally or directed?
One of the stories I share often, because I think it's a very good example of how this works, is a client who came to see me for fear of bumblebees. And she had no idea why. She'd been afraid of bumblebees since she was a child. She was so terrified of bumblebees that she would run from her car to the office door because she thought she would get stung in the 20 feet between the spaces. She couldn't be outside at all because she was constantly terrified that the bees were going to sting her. And so I said, "Well, have you been stung a lot?" "No." She says, "I've never been stung by a bee." Okay. So we start doing our work, and not immediately, because it usually takes people a little bit of time to get into the right zone. But after a few sessions, we did a session to see where did this come from, to basically go back and find the beginning of where this belief that the bees were going to sting her was coming from. And she had a vision of herself as a little girl sitting in a garden with her mother, and there's lavender and roses and bumblebees in the garden, and everything's fine. And then her mother leans over and tells her that they are in the garden at the hospital and that her big sister, who was 10 years older and had kidney problems, was upstairs in the hospital having surgery, and there was a chance her big sister was going to pass away and was going to die on the table from this surgery.
Mhm.
Well, this little girl crisscrossed the fear of the surgery and the bees. And so in her subconscious mind, every time she saw those bees, that fear that was associated with losing her big sister would come up. Once she had this explanation that this is where it came from, she could be like, my sister lived. The bees had nothing to do with this. I'm ready to let that go. I am ready to not be afraid, not be terrified of bumblebees anymore. And her whole
Mhm.
life changed. She could sit on the patio. She could go to the boyfriend's picnic. She didn't have to run to the car. Like, everything changed. She's very funny. She's like, well, I don't go hiking and I'm not going camping, but I can stand be in the outdoors for a little while. And so to me, this is an excellent story. Her transformation was quick, not instantaneous, but quick. And it completely opened up a door to a whole new life for her.
Mhm.
And, not every client goes through something quite like that. But I think it's a good illustration that if you have a weird fear or a strange habit or something that is in your way, consider talking to me or another trained hypnotherapist, because if it's in your head, we might be able to help you get it out of your head.
Mhm. Well, there's a perfect segue. If somebody wants to reach out and explore that, where can they go?
The best way to find me is at my website. There's a lot more information about me and my books and my podcast and all that kind of stuff. My website is michellewalters.net, MichellWalters.net. And I also have an app that I am uh, putting out in the universe to support people who are looking to make custom hypnotherapy recordings. I'm going to pass along a discount code via a URL I'll give to you for the show notes. That app is called makemyhypno.com. So if you're curious about that, please take a look for the code to makemyhypno.com.
The Superhuman Academy podcast is hosted by Collin Jewett and designed and edited by Army Cinco, with original music by Joshua Schunig and voiceovers by Corey Page Schunig. That's me. You can find past episodes and resources, as well as access to the ever-growing Superhuman Academy community at superhumanacademy.com. If you like the show, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your podcast platform of choice.